Hello, I'm James Dean Bradfield, and you are watching Gibson Guitar Germany. Yeah, we were all kind of absolute, just, kind of obsessive music freaks when we were young, when we were growing up in Wales. One of my idols was Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols, and obviously he famously played a white Gibson. I also loved Lindsey Buckingham, and he played a white Les Paul Custom. And and then there were people like Slash who played a Les Paul of sorts, kind of thing. And there were just so many guitarists I absolutely loved. And the one I wanted was a white Les Paul Custom. And I finally got one in 1990, just before we got a major record deal with Sony. And it's been my main guitar ever since. It's been on every record, and it's the thing that fits me best. It's heavy in weight. I get everything I need out of it, at least 80% of the time. And whenever I try to retire that guitar, it always makes a comeback. I can't deny it. It is my soulmate in terms of a guitar, definitely. Well, we've got an album coming out in September, which is called Rewind the Film, and a lot of it was recorded in Cardiff, and it's very much taken more of an acoustic direction. There's barely any electric guitar on it. And a lot of that was recorded in our own studio in Cardiff, but some of it was also recorded in Berlin in Hansa Studios. We recorded there because a guy that we grew up with in Wales, who engineered one of our records called The Holy Bible, now lives and works here in Berlin, and he works in Hansa with Herbert Grönemeyer. And so we came over to reconvene our working relationship with Alex Silver from Wales. Because, well, number one, he's a really close personal friend of mine, and I know he's an amazing engineer. It was the first time we'd worked with him in a long time, and it worked out perfectly. It's not many people that can say that they recorded in Cardiff and Berlin. It's not a mixture most people go for, but it really worked. We've been playing in Berlin since 1991. The first time we ever played in Berlin was at a venue called The Loft, which most people are probably too young to remember. But that was a great event for us because the Loft in Berlin was a legendary kind of venue for bands from Britain. They always aspired to play in the Loft, like people used to aspire to play in CBGBs in New York. And unfortunately, it's not there anymore. But so we've been playing in Berlin since '91. Made some friends in Berlin. I know Berlin really well. I came here for a New Year's Eve party in 2010. And of course, Alex Silver, one of my best friends, lives and works here. I know my way around the city. I've got lots of favourite places that I go to. And it's I've been here with my wife many times as a tourist. We're all massive fans of Germany in a strange way, because we all grew up with a lot of German music. Musicians are still obsessed with very influential German music, whether it be, Can or Neu or Faust or Cluster or Popelvey that did lots of soundtrack work, obviously. And then there were bands like Eisstunde Nubatzen, which, we were all intrigued with when we were young. And dare I say it, even some records by Rammstein. So kind of, a lot of people think it's one-way traffic. A lot of people think that people want to come to Britain because it's a mecca for kind of, musical influence or wherever, but we always had a very, very kind of undying kind of admiration for the German music scene, because it was always very original, and very skewed, and very, very kind of like authentic in its strange or messed up way. So, it's two-way traffic. A lot of British musicians come to Germany and want to try and discover what the secret was for some of those bands. There are two, obviously different ways of getting sounds. If you're a musician, there's the studio and there's the live stage, obviously. I think it's definitely better if you find the simplest option when you play live. So for me, I've been using the same setup now for the last 7 to 8 years, which is I use a JCM 900 Marshall, which is very unfashionable. A lot of people hate the 900 head. They see it as the quintessential soft metal kind of amp. But it really suits me. I've used it for a long time because it has very vital kind of gain on it. And the top end sustain on a JCM 900 is just amazing. So I use the JCM 900 for the sustain and the pure kind of distortion, and I use it in conjunction with a Mesa Boogie Lone Star. So kind of, the Marshall JCM 900 gives you the fizz and the aggression and the sustain, and the Mesa Boogie Lone Star gives you the middle, the body. And for me, that's a very simple setup, and I've used it for 7 to 8 years now. And as long as you get everything in phase and stuff, for me, I can't go wrong with it. It suits me. But when it goes to the studio, I think you've got to try and collect as many different amps as possible and as many different guitars as possible. You've got to try and find those fucked up, strange amps that nobody else uses, whether they be little Watkins amps from the 50s or the 60s, or whether they be like Berman amps, which was like called the poor man's Marshall in the 70s, that were made in Britain. So I keep it simple live, and I keep it kind of fluid in the studio. Have as many different amps as possible, and just always make sure you've got kind of a beast of a humbucker guitar and a really waspy kind of like single coil pickup guitar, and you're good to go.